Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to bring this guest back on the show today. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. And since the last time she's been on the show, she was the September 2021 FHM cover model. And we're super happy to have her back here. This is Miss Jamie Lynn. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing good, Michael. Thanks for having me back. Hi, guys. I wasn't on the cover, by the way. I was just a feature, but still.
Yeah, whatever. The only page of that FHM I ever looked at was yours, okay? My therapist is prettier than yours. All right, so here's the thing. Jamie and we talk all the time, and we have these debates off air about different things, because I think we both have, like you mentioned before, about wanting to do the work and having a good having good intentions, right?
Yes,
I think we both have good intentions, even though, like, I'm a little bit more analytical and you are a little bit more intuitive. I think we come to the same conclusion, but the debates are really good, and there's several debates I want to talk to you about. But let's talk about the big things that we've been discussing recently.
Okay.
So the first thing is, since the last time you were on here, everyone is like addicted, like, you know, saying chocolate chip cookies to this Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. And the thing is, I didn't think I was going to get sucked in. I thought this was dumb. And first off, let me set this up, because this is probably the most disappointing part of this whole deal. So the first thing I do is I don't understand the trial. So I Google Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial explained. And this one video comes up that everyone's watched, and it's from 60 Minutes in Australia. And they just destroy Johnny Depp. They basically accuse him of being a woman beater, and then they're like, I don't know why Johnny Depp's even doing this. He looks like a moron. And then the trial comes out, and like nothing could be further from the truth.
Completely shifted.
I was 100% sure Johnny Depp shouldn't have done this, and now I'm 100% sure he should have.
Oh, he had to.
Yeah, and you don't realize he had to, because what do normally we see with celebrities? You know, wait till the truth comes out, wait till my side comes out. There's two sides to the story, and then it turns out this person ends up being Charlie Sheen. Just like
well, I think gender roles had a lot to do with that as well, because women, you know, they are perceived as the more vulnerable victim in a DV case. And so people tend to side with them or show more empathy and compassion to them. You know, it's harder to recognize male abuse when it comes to DV. Do you think that, so it's a situation where Amber Heard is unusually beautiful. I mean, she's a very beautiful woman. And have you ever read Marilyn Monroe? I keep saying that. Marilyn Monroe's biography? I have not.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
There are a lot of things. Now, again, there were different times and there were different things that she had to put up with, but the willingness of her to basically do anything to become famous and become successful, even though she was fantastically beautiful and talented at the same time, it just, when you see it, it's crazy. Like, for instance, I think a lot of people think there was an affair between JFK and Marilyn Monroe. There are actually Secret Service documents. She was there at the residence. Jackie O was fully aware that her husband was sleeping with Marilyn Monroe. We think that these things are happening, but we don't know these things are happening. And then when you read about it, you can see that she definitely was suffering from some mental trauma. And that's one of the things Jackie O told JFK is like, I don't feel comfortable with you sleeping with this woman. With you sleeping with other women, I'm fine with, but not this woman, because clearly she's got some issues and you're taking advantage of her. And JFK basically said, he's like, well, my wife lets me do whatever I want. So if she asks for this one, I'm not going to talk to her. And then that's why Marilyn Monroe ends up dating Robert Kennedy like a couple months later. So in this situation, when you see this, Amber Heard, I just kind of feel like in some cases, and by the way, we could say this about a very good looking or talented male also, if they have mental illness, they slip through the cracks because they're a famous point guard, or they are a beautiful model, or whatever. And they seem to be able to get further before anybody checks them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think that there's been many studies in psychology that kind of suggest that, you know, when people are in these celebrity roles, there's a sense of credibility that comes with that, and a sense of power that comes with that, and it's harder to challenge. Like, there was an old experiment done when I was learning about psychology of just an average Joe in a white lab coat, right? And people did whatever this guy said.
Incredible studies.
Yeah, and
I know exactly what you're talking about.
it was just because he was wearing a white lab coat. And so you use that same principle, and I think that you can see some of those things applying in situations like this with Amber Heard.
Yeah, the studies you're referring to, they actually got people to shock shock other individuals.
Yes, they did.
They had now it wasn't actual really shocking because the person in the lab coat was a Confederate and the person who was being shocked was a Confederate. But they had individuals and they'd be like, tell them to be shocked. And,
well, they were testing empathy and they were testing power and
It was
a lot of other
unbelievable
things.
studies.
How far people would go.
It really, really is crazy stuff where stuff like that would happen. And they did that because they were trying to test also some of the efficacy of what happened with the population of the Germans back in the 1930s, why they were following these madmen into doing these incredibly horrific things. And that's what these studies were showing, is that a lot of times people are sheep. And so that's where that comes from. But in the situation with this, it was, Kyrie Irving comes to mind, thinking the earth is flat, playing point guard for the Nets. And then like nobody really checks him, when we have situations like this, because you see there's like serious mental illness here, right? She's taking a dump on the bed, right?
Look, we can really get into this, Michael, and I can give you my opinion on it for sure, because it's a case that I've been watching pretty closely because it's fascinating, right? Like, this is my bread and butter right here. Does her behavior suggest that there's mental illness? 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And his as well.
And you mentioned before, we talked before about you think it's a cluster B issue.
I do, 100%. Absolutely. I think that she's, there's so much I could go on here.
So let's just for the audience, in the DSM-5, there's 3 clusters: mad, bad, and sad. Cluster A would be the mad ones. Cluster B would be the bad ones, and cluster C would be the sad ones. You can look them up for yourself. But cluster B is going to be sociopathy, narcissistic personality disorder.
So we call those the dramatic.
Yeah.
They're the dramatic category, cluster Bs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so sociopathy, it's called antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic, and narcissism. Yeah. So go ahead. You think that she
Well, I have to say this. I am not diagnosing Amber Heard with anything.
Right.
I'm going to be talking about behavior that is suggestive of certain diagnoses. Now, she has been evaluated by a forensic psychologist, right? And she has been formally diagnosed with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, and histrionic personality.
So she's got the double dose.
She's been diagnosed with 2 disorders. I think that she has a lot of behavior that mirrors narcissistic.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she, in my opinion, like, and that's the thing is that a lot of women in particularly can be misdiagnosed with BPD. One, because they're suffering from actual post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And the second one is because they're actually narcissists.
Yeah.
But society, what happens is that society sees women as we're the nurturers. We are more forgiving. There's a stigma attached to borderline personality disorders. It's extremely disruptive, and society doesn't necessarily want to stigmatize women in that way. And so they will with narcissism, sorry, not BPD. Yeah. So they will give them kind of a lesser diagnosis of BPD, which is more socially acceptable than a narcissism diagnosis.
Or sociopath. So right. there's some science behind what you're saying. Also, Dr. Martha Stout's book, The Sociopath Next Door, they basically they can show this bias to where if you take the same same presenting factors with 2 individuals and you make that individual a male and the psychologist cannot see the individual, they are far more likely to diagnose the male with antisocial personality disorder, and with the same presenting factors, the female with borderline personality disorder. Dr. Martha Stout believes that because sociopathy is not normally distributed amongst the population, there should be just as many female sociopaths as male.
There's really a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Like there's such a heavy emphasis on these antisocial and narcissism being heavily laden with the male gender. And it's just, in my professional opinion, in my own experience, I see a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's just, I think that there's just been misdiagnoses. See, like if I take those diagnoses, and again, I haven't done any testing with her or anything like that, and I don't have the test results in front of me to piggyback off of, but
she did shit in her bed though.
Well, look, there's other things that I think that's an easy one. That's a big one though.
That's a big one.
But that's easy. So like what people kind of should know is look, here's a really good example of how she could be diagnosed with BPD, and it's really narcissism, right? You're seeing a lot of emotional reactivity. Okay. You're seeing a lot of abandonment, which again that's a huge thing with narcissism as well. But you're seeing a lot of the black and the white. That's idealization and devaluation and the narcissistic cycle of abuse. Like Johnny's good, Johnny's bad. You know, she's a physical violence. Again, that's a big part of the narcissistic abuse cycle when they're being devalued and discarded, right? So these things that's one small example of how somebody can look at black and white thinking, which is a typical trait in BPD, but actually it's narcissism.
Right.
You know,
well,
and
about 40% of people who have BPD are also diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder.
Well, you know, I don't know the stats on that. Yeah. I'm actually like a little relieved to hear that because I wonder if that's more men though than it is women, you know, because I don't really see that diagnosis with women because women kind of, again, I think that there's that societal like gender bias to not diagnose women with narcissism.
Yeah.
But it's there, man.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah, and you know, like her shitting in the bed. I mean, that's an obvious one. That's her fury. That's her anger. That's her rage. Like that's a good example of what happens when a narcissist loses control. They cannot manage it, and she's extremely reactive, right? She doesn't have a lot of her narcissism. Doesn't have a lot of she's not very sophisticated with it.
Isn't it funny how the judicial system, especially the civil judicial system in this country, does not really make a place for that? Like she was clearly not of sound mind, able to file to have this to try to defend herself in the suit in the first place. And the issue that I have is like you and I both came to the same conclusion that she's not a sociopath, and there was a reason why. Can you explain?
Like the difference between the two?
Yeah. So the reason why, like, her behavior was indicative of someone who thinks she's completely right rather than someone who's calculating and knows she's wrong.
Right. So like, here's the thing that you'll get with pretty much every narcissist. Every narcissist is operating through their lens, so they don't perceive that there's a problem, okay, and they don't perceive that they're wrong in any way. That's also different than NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder. I'm talking about a narcissist, okay? Yes. A narcissist does not perceive there's any problem. Yes. And they will go into this. You can see her going into this with a sense of superiority, okay? Narcissistic trait. You can see her going into this with a sense of grandiosity. You can see her going into this with a sense of entitlement. I'm listing narcissistic traits, right? Yep. And you can see her like, I have done nothing wrong. I have no accountability here. I have nothing. Again, narcissistic traits, right? She's in a position of power and she leverages that over him. I mean, you could, even her outfits, the whole thing with the outfits, you know?
The outfits I think is a function of control, but even but like there's no way she could possibly go to trial with the audio of her saying, I didn't punch you, I hit you, and then denying that she hit him. Like she's the only way for it, again, it is like there's a video of you murdering someone and then you go to trial and be like, I didn't murder them.
She won't perceive it that way. Narcissists will not perceive it that way.
Which is why we don't think, well, you and I both thought that she's not a sociopath. Because if she was a sociopath, there's no way she would allow herself to be exposed like this. She is getting mollywopped 56-0 right now.
Well, a sociopath actually might do that. A psychopath is less likely to do that. A psychopath is much more controlled in their responses. They don't feel anything, whereas a sociopath is more emotionally reactive. They're more likely to explode with anger. They have a more difficult time regulating their emotions. A sociopath actually does feel things, okay? But it's more like anger, rage, whereas a psychopath feels nothing.
Well, they still feel pleasure and pain and stuff like that. You can still, with a psychopath, there still is a carrot and a stick. It's just like they don't care about you suffering at all. There's
no empathy, right? And there's no remorse,
right? There's no.
Those are the two things. But really, there really is no real emotion. They're not really feeling satisfied, or they're not feeling those things at all. Whereas you may get more of that with a sociopath. But again, and another important distinction to make, at least in my field, is sociopath. A big kind of qualifier in that is they feel like sociopaths are more made, so more environmental. And there's a lot of argument in my field to support that a psychopath is more genetic or biochemical.
Yeah. So what would the biochemical part of it would be, again, if you talk to Dr. Stout, Martha Stout, she talks about the autonomic nervous system doesn't fire. So if you or I had a dead body in the trunk and the police pull us over,
yeah, there's no fight or flight.
No matter what we do, our heart, even if we try to play it off to the cops, our heart rate is still going to go up.
Yes.
That's autonomic. Also, we feel the butterflies in our stomach and we start sweating in our palms. Sociopaths don't have, or in your case, you're saying psychopaths. Psychopaths don't have that. They don't feel that. It's like Ted Bundy, like, how you doing, officer? Doing good?
There's nothing.
Everything good? He doesn't, his heart rate doesn't even go up. And so that's the thing. Like and when you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, if you're an individual, when you're faced with fight or flight situations and you never feel anything, of course, you're going to develop differently than other people. And then so the idea of murdering someone or stealing from someone doesn't really have any.
It just hits different.
It hits different.
They're not going to see it the way that you see it. And that's what so many just regular people, but also empathic people, they're always shocked by that behavior because they would never think of something like that.
Yeah.
And they have a really hard time understanding how somebody could see something like that.
You know what else I thought was funny is how the strategy that Amber Heard's attorney are taking, like they're calling him out for snorting cocaine and doing whiskey. So go ahead and write in the comments if you didn't know that Johnny Depp drank whiskey and snorted cocaine. If this is a revelation to you, he's in a goddamn children's movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, portraying an alcoholic, and you didn't know he was drinking whiskey. This is like, again, this just made him more human to me, to be honest with you.
But this is, again, to support the narcissistic perspective is that a narcissist will always smear you, right? Like, I understand that part of that just comes with the court. They're going to try to discredit whoever. But this, again, supports the idea that she presents with very strong narcissistic traits, right? Like, where you have to completely, like, discredit somebody, smear them, devalue them. It's just part of that.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not in any way saying, I don't know if Johnny Depp has any mental disorder either. What I do know is in this case, there was an article written about him in Fairfax County, which is the reason why this federal civil trial is in Fairfax County. I believe it's in somewhere in Virginia. Maybe I'm wrong about Fairfax County. But the reason why he has to defend himself is because he was defamed. And he lost a trial in London. A lot of people don't know this. There was a trial that happened in London, and the judge basically summarily found that he's just a wife beater, and they threw it out and found in the favor of Amber Heard.
Yeah, Disney cut him like immediately.
And that's another thing. I want you to think about the damages here. Like, whatever you're going through, like, he is no longer, the Pirates of the Caribbean was a big thing, even for him. The guy had a ton of debt too. Like, he had to do these movies in order to pay for some of the things that I'm not saying Johnny Depp's a saint, but the fact of the matter is he's being called a woman beater. And to this point, I have not seen any evidence to confirm that.
Right. There's even pictures of him with bruisings. He lost, the tip of his finger.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of evidence to support that he has been a victim of domestic violence, and you even hear it from Amber Heard herself, right?
Yeah. I didn't punch you. I just hit you.
Yeah, I just hit you.
Quit being a baby.
I thought it was pretty incredible how his defense attorney ended his testimony, because the defense attorney played the tape and said, "Tell everybody, Johnny, tell everybody that you're a victim of domestic violence." And he goes, "I am." And then they said, "Nothing further, Your Honor." And I was like, damn, mic drop.
Yeah.
Again,
how could you go to trial with that if you're Amber Heard, unless you're sure you're right? That's my point.
Yeah, exactly. She does not even entertain the idea that anybody would challenge her. Okay, sense of superiority, grandiosity, narcissistic traits. And she thinks she's right. Like, she thinks she's above it all. She's like, well, surely they'll believe me. Yeah. Like, it doesn't even cross her mind that she's done anything wrong. Again, that suggests lack of accountability, no empathy, no remorse. And another important thing to point out, if you just look at her while she's testimonying throughout the trial, there's a lot of I can see a lot of cognitive empathy being explained, where she has these delayed responses where she's like, what should I do here? And that's her narcissism being like, do we cry? Do we this? Do we do this? What's the appropriate emotional response? I've got to mirror this behavior really quickly. So you see that delayed onset. And then, and then there's never any tears. Yeah. That's a really important thing to point out. She's like, and then it's just like, but, and I'm not saying that she hasn't also experienced things that at his hands as well. But again, it's important to point these things out and call out just the behavior and be like, well, if you're really upset about this, it doesn't quite match. Yeah. The affect is off. Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting situation with that. And then also I see her progressively looking worse, looking like she looks a little disheveled, doesn't she? Because there's no way with her temperament that she's not reading every single thing there is about this case. Every one of these memes is getting to her. Well, she's losing supply. Yeah. Okay. She's losing a lot of supply right now because she came into this with a huge bank to pull from. Yeah. And now Johnny Depp is being shown more favorable. The smearing of him, the tarnishing of his reputation is now backfiring. Narcissism have to have this shield of their image. When that is tainted, when that is tarnished, like, oh my God, that creates narcissistic wounding, that creates narcissistic injury. That's what you're seeing with her right now. Narcissists have to have that narcissistic supply. Otherwise, they have no energy. That's why she looks more disheveled. That's why she looks more downtrodden, because her supply is being tapped and she doesn't have people to pull from right now.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this, because there's another situation. This situation with Will Smith, right? So this is kind of a huge thing.
Yes.
And there were several different points of view and perspective that came from this. I don't know if you heard Chris Rock the other day. Dave Chapelle got attacked on stage a couple of days ago at the Hollywood Bowl.
I did hear that. I didn't see it.
Yeah,
though.
it's really funny. And immediately, what does everyone think? This is a pro-trans individual who hates Dave Chapelle. That was not it at all. This woman, this guy who went up there, he seems to be suffering from some kind of mental illness, where he went up there. His grandmother is being evicted from her home because of gentrification in a certain area, and so because of that, he was trying to create awareness to it. So he's going to tackle Dave Chapelle. I really understand the whole thing there, but the thing is, afterwards, Chris Rock, or was it something like Chris Rock said, I was punched by the softest rapper who's ever lived, or something to that effect. It was hilarious. He finally clapped back at Will Smith for what happened. The situation with Will Smith, I'm gonna give you my theory, and I don't know this to be a fact, but because we talk so much about TRT and testosterone on the show, Will Smith is significantly older than me. Okay, he's in his 50s and he looks fantastic. I think we can all agree he looks fantastic. I think he's on something. I'm just speculating. Like The Rock, I know The Rock is on something. It's pretty clear. But like some of these other guys, and I think if he is, he sounded to me like a dude who's taken tests and no estrogen blocker. And the reason why I keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth, like that, his voice is breaking. You hear his voice breaking. He sounds like a dude not taking an Anastasol. Like he sounds like a guy who's loaded up on tests and his estrogen levels are super fucking high. Just a theory. I absolutely have no idea. Can't diagnose it. He just looks like the dudes who like take basketball too seriously or want to fight over the fucking bench press at the gym. He looked like that to me, where he lost it, right? And then the things that were obvious were he's laughing at the joke, looks at his wife, no approval, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. All of a sudden that changes because he's not getting his wife's approval. Very Stockholm Syndrome looking.
Exactly. What did
you think about it?
Well, there's a lot that I'm basing my opinion on. So much more than that. I think we have to take a look at Jada in order to explain Will Smith's behavior and why he may have responded that way. And I really can't possibly give your audience all of that information right now. However, I will say that from what I have seen, and interviews that I have watched, and I'm not diagnosing anybody, but Jada presents with very strong narcissistic traits. Okay, I see a lot of triangulation with her. I see a lot of cognitive empathy. I've heard a lot of stories where he does something very nice and she devalues that, like her 40th birthday. He had like a whole 3-day or 7-day extravaganza and she wouldn't even attend. You see the triangulation with Tupac in August. Like there's always somebody in the mix where she's, devaluing him, and this was his night. Yeah. Which I find very interesting. This is something that where he is being honored for and he is being praised for, and that threatens a narcissist's control. Right. It threatens it. And so what does she have to do? And she doesn't know what she is. She has no idea, right? But subconsciously, her narcissism is like, well, I need that. Yeah. This can't be about him. This has to be about me.
It's even more so because they're in the same profession. I want you to think about it, right?
Well, he's greater than her, right? And that's going to threaten her narcissism.
She was, if you go back to like the late 90s, Jada Pinkett's in the top 5, bro. It's like Vivica Fox, Jada Pinkett, Halle Berry. Like she's up there, right? And so with a lot of those actresses, they have an opportunity like Selma Hayek did, where you have a chance to act. If you can make this motherfucker work, you are going to end up like Scarlett Johansson happens to be a fantastic actress, and she's also very, very attractive, right? And so Jada, it never hit for her. She never got the thing that where Halle Berry, she knocked it out of the park. Halle Berry is a world-renowned Academy Award-winning actress. Jada Pinkett was a pretty face. And what happened with Will is that Will kept going up. Will, it's not just that it's not just that Will got that respect. It's that Will got the respect that Jada always wanted. I think the fact that they're in not a similar profession, the exact same profession, I think has a part to do with this as well.
Well, you're 100% correct. Absolutely. I will say this, it won't matter what profession they're in. That actually isn't relevant, but because they're in the same profession, it throws salt on the wound.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we go back to that night, again, he's being honored. It threatens her sense of control. So she's going to have to do something to regain that control. And she is doing this on a subconscious level because she does not know what she is. She doesn't know what's going on. And so what happens, he cracks a joke at her and then she gives the look of disapproval. There's probably a long history of this, a long pattern, and Will Smith knows exactly what that means, and if he doesn't correct it, if he doesn't stand up for her, he's going to suffer.
Yeah.
Right. And there's probably a huge history of that. So he knew subconsciously, again, he's not doing this consciously. He knew, he's like, well, shit, if I don't do something, I'm going to suffer. The devaluation phase for him is going to start. So he has to act. So he's like, my wife's name, mom. And then she sits back and she's just, stoic and victimized and, and she didn't even like praise her husband or anything, and I mean, she's just like, yeah.
Oh, I was willing to bet you she texted some other guy right after that happened, talking about how annoying she is with how annoyed she is with her husband. You know what else is really interesting after that? So, like, if I explaining his behavior and why he did that, I think it's more of a trauma response than anything, because I think he's a highly empathic individual, actually. I don't think that he's your average Joe. I think he's highly empathic. And even empathic people have moments where they're extremely reactive. Again, there's probably some PTSD, because when you have prolonged exposure to a narcissist, you're going to have some PTSD, okay? And people with PTSD can be really reactive and really responsive. And he's got to do this to protect himself, because my God, if he doesn't, he's got to go home to that, And you can even see afterwards, like there's a moment on the red carpet where she changed outfits, and I'm like, God damn. And again, to me, the way I interpret that is another way to draw attention to. And here he is, they're with their whole family and they're trying to present as a united front. And the family leaves, and they're, taking picture, going down the roll, and she stays. Yeah.
Again, to regain control. And she even goes,
yeah,
because she wasn't done yet. I mean, it just shows, and then sure enough, he comes back like a good little boy, it just, you see these dynamics. That's a narcissistic dynamic. I was watching this like red table talk shit that she does, right? Fucking gagged me. And God, that stuff want to throw up. It's so ridiculous.
Are you talking about when she had Will?
She acts so woke, and I'm like, but you're not though. Anyway, there was a moment where they were talking about her entanglement. Again, this is blame shifting. This is escaping accountability, narcissistic traits, guys. Okay. And she won't even call it what it is. She's not taking ownership of her behavior.
But let's also say this. Will isn't calling it what it is either.
Well, he's not, but he's doing that for a different reason. Yeah. He's doing that because if he calls it what it is, it's going to threaten her sense of control, and he's going to get it again.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, he doesn't, sorry, that's a fly. He doesn't call it what it is because he's trying to regain a sense of power and control as well. Yeah. And that's another dynamic that's happening here. He's trying to act like my wife doesn't run the show here. We had like I was for this as well, or like there was something there that he was, goddamn fly. Sorry,
yeah, it is a really weird dynamic with that whole situation. So first off, he's using comedy. If you guys back and watch the Red Table thing, he when he's being interviewed by his wife, he is using comedy to deflect, and he goes, "I was through with your ass." And like, no, you weren't. Yes,
that's what I wanted to refer to.
You weren't through with her. You're still with her today. You had kids with her, and you're like that. That was the part. Like, I want to. Like in this case with the Johnny Depp situation, I don't know the function of this. I'm not going to marry a woman who is going to express her undying love for Tupac. I'm just not. I'm like I'm not. You've made this a little too public. I need you to be mine, and I need this to be a team. This is not a team. This is me. This is and again, I don't know Kanye West personally. I think Kanye West, when he wasn't famous, the hottest woman in the world to him was Kim Kardashian. And when he got famous, he got a chance to date the biggest crush of his life, not giving 2/10 of a shit about what the rest of it was like. And then Kim Kardashian was like, how can I remain relevant? Well, I can remain relevant by dating one of the biggest producers in the world. I don't care that he has a mental disorder. It doesn't make any difference to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and date him. And I think Kim is like, well, how can I continue to remain relevant? Who is the person that would upset the world the most for me to date? Pete Davidson. So let me just date him because it doesn't make any fucking sense. And then we'll just see how much news I can churn up so that me in my 40s, I can maintain some level of relevancy. That's what I see. That's what I see in that situation. But the situation with this, I do put some blame on Will Smith, not blame, but more of a situation. I don't know if you're aware of this. So Will Smith has a biography and so does Chris Rock. In the case of Will Smith, when he was 9 years old, he watched his mother be severely beaten by his father. He talks about the powerlessness, and you can only imagine the level of PTSD and how maybe he's projecting that in his current relationship. But the same thing with Chris Rock. He was being bullied severely. He's a smaller kid, and there's a show. Remember Chris Rock? I forgot the name of the TV show where he's playing himself as a kid, or he writes it. He produces himself as a kid, and in the show, like he's being severely bullied also, which is why he has such a great sense of humor. But he ended up bringing some rock to school or brick, and ended up putting a kid in the hospital, and since then sort of detests violence from that point on. And you see both of those pathologies.
Is that why they call him Chris Rock?
Maybe that could be it. That's funny, but that you could kind of see both of those pathologies playing out.
Yeah, you can. Look, like he doesn't want to repeat the behavior of his father, right? He also has this Captain Sabaho complex.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just kind of like, oh, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be the defender of my family. But it's just like he's going in blind. Like it's just like, all right, like you can what are you defending though? Like, he's just very he just doubles down.
Yeah. That is pretty crazy. Yeah. That whole situation is like, I expected more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like two-sided belief of this, but it really, like most people did agree that Jada was abusive towards him. And I didn't think a lot of people would see that.
I didn't either. Yeah. I thought a lot of people would really villainize Will after something so aggressive because his behavior was completely inappropriate, right? Absolutely. And it is abusive to do that. But I think that I'm in no way excusing that behavior or saying that that's okay. But I think that we do need to take a look at what could have, why he did that.
Okay, I want to talk about two things. You and I have never really talked about this, but it's something I know you deal with and something I deal with too. And this is like clout chasing or the haters that you get sometime. One of the things I really enjoyed hearing, and I obviously I'm not trying to excuse this, but you saw the situation with Mike Tyson punching that dude in the airplane. This guy just kept talking shit to him.
No, I didn't actually. So I don't know anything about it.
Mike Tyson reaches back and starts punching this guy. There's video of it, right? And I don't know what's going to happen as far as the legal situation, but what he said afterwards is so incredibly true. And that is, our phones have made us start to believe that we can say this shit and not get punched in the face. Because in 1995, the stuff that people like, I did Brad Lee's podcast a couple weeks. I did it several months ago actually, and it just came out a couple of days ago.
I saw that.
And the hate that I'm getting, I don't mind if you guys want to criticize me. A lot of the stuff was taken out of context. I don't mind that. It's some of these dudes are saying things to me, and I'm like, hey man, just to let you know, not trying to be mean, you would never say this to my face. Like you would never. Like this is ridiculous for you.
Well, they call them like what keyboard warriors.
Yeah,
right?
and I bring that up, and then like I think that's what's happening here. This guy's a keyboard warrior, literally talking to Mike Tyson because he thinks because he's done this on a YouTube video that he can do it to Mike Tyson's face and forgets that he's going to get punched in the face.
Yeah, well, there's a sense of like untouchability, right? Also, like we're disconnected from social relationships a lot of times. We don't have any natural consequences for what we say online, and so there is a desensitization that occurs, and so we just get kind of conditioned to say whatever we want. And then we forget that, and then we add in that human element, and it goes somewhere else.
Yep, exactly. All right. That's cool. Now, so with that situation with Mike Tyson, I also want to talk about the situation with Dave Chapelle. So Dave Chapelle, two things. Number one, he had made some statements that I did not feel like were transphobic. In fact, I think what made the trans community so angry wasn't the statements that he made that people thought were transphobic. It's that he called them out. If you go and see his special, he actually had a trans woman open for him in San Francisco. Every time he went to San Francisco, he had the same woman open for him. Then afterwards, that woman was berated on Twitter to the point where she committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
And afterwards, he paid for her funeral and then set up a fund for her daughter. So before she had transitioned from being a man, had a daughter with a woman, and then set up a fund for his daughter. And then Dave Chapelle called out, like, where were the rest of you? None of you did anything for this person when this person committed suicide. None of you did. I truly think that's why the trans community is angry at him. Because I listen to what he's saying, and what he's saying is not he's not glorifying violence against trans people in no way whatsoever. And so I thought that whole thing was interesting, especially the situation. Netflix did not cancel him. And if anything, things got bigger. He's doing record numbers with his sales now. And I was just very curious when that situation happened. And then the same situation with Mike Tyson, some guy comes on the stage about 72 hours, maybe it was a couple of days ago, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. He's performing at the Hollywood Bowl and somebody comes on stage and has, what was it? Did he have a gun knife or something like that? Do you remember? Tristan?
He had he had like a knife and then didn't use it.
Oh, the guy had a knife on him, comes on stage and tackles Dave Chappelle on stage. And I feel like it's the same type of situation where this virtual world we live in, we start forgetting that you can get punched in the face.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that because, again, like social media, people are conditioned to, there's no repercussion. There's no natural consequences for saying whatever you want. But then, so there's a conditioning that happens, right? We just kind of get in the habit of saying and doing that without any consequence. Yeah. Now you add in the human element or the direct human interaction, it's going to hit differently.
Yeah.
I've got the jokes today, Mike.
There we go. That's beautiful. All right, can we go back? Something that I know it's a pet peeve for you and me is when people say, "Oh, I can always tell when they're a sociopath."
Fucking hate that.
It's so crazy. Like I can always tell when they're narcissist. Then why are you dating
exactly
one after another?
We cannot tell right away. Like, I think nobody would sign up to be in a relationship with that. Like. Nobody, like you experience, like nobody would say like, oh my God, yeah, like please verbally abuse me. In fact, like take my money, cheat on me, humiliate me to the entire world. And you know what? I'd love to go through emotional abuse. Like sign me up. Oh, you don't care about my feelings? You want to ruin special events and occasions? Sounds great.
Yeah.
Nobody would do that.
Let's, because I know we've done 2 situations where a woman's been abusive. Let's go back because it came out recently with the Pam and Tommy documentary. I don't think Pamela Anderson knew that Tommy Lee was going to be physically abusive. I don't think she understood that whole situation. And like when you look at this situation, right, with Pamela Anderson, who could have anyone and chose someone who abused her. Will Smith, who could have anyone and chose someone who abused him, right? And with Johnny Depp, literally could have anyone and chose someone who abused them. This should be an indicator to you, who's not a celebrity, that this can happen to you as well.
So, I mean, most people do like have experienced some form of abuse. And, by the time you recognize what you're in, there's other things keeping you in that relationship, So people aren't presenting, again, with a lot of the abusive traits, right? Which is why we keep getting into relationships with people that hurt us. And then when you are in that relationship, you have sometimes financial ties, sometimes children, but then you have the emotional bonds and the addictive nature of that relationship that make it really hard to get out of and stay out of.
Yeah. But again, I just want to point this out again. Like these people could have had anyone they wanted, right? Pam Anderson, literally any man on the planet, right? And then you said the situation with Johnny Depp. We're talking about the most desirable people in the world, and they're choosing to be in relationships with people they later find out have cluster B personality disorder. I don't know the thing with Tommy Lee, but I do know he was abusive in those situations, right? And then you're like, well, why would anyone choose this? And then you have these same people, and you and I have experienced them before, saying things like, well, I can always tell when they're narcissists.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
It is frustrating when you hear that, because here's the reason why. Like, and let's just break this down from a scientific standpoint. Anything that persists amongst Homo sapiens has to exist somewhere in evolution. It has to. The desire for symmetrical faces or signs of youth or whatever, those things, or the fact that I want to eat sugar, salt, and fat, these things have to exist somewhere in Homo sapien evolution. So the idea that we had psychopaths for hundreds of years ago, so let's go back to Genghis Khan, and then we can go through Pol Pot, we can go through Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler. So we know that sociopathy is something that persists throughout time. If we know that is the case, then what that means is somewhere in evolution there had to be a reason for it. For something like that to exist, it can't present when you're young, or else people would just say, that person's a sociopath, don't breed with them, then there'd be no more sociopaths. And so that's the reason why it doesn't work. So anybody, by definition, when you think you can pick out a narcissist or a sociopath, you can't. There's just no way. And a survival mechanism of that type of personality disorder would be that you can't see it. Just like if somebody, there's a virus, whatever virus you catch, I'm not going to present the symptoms of the virus immediately, or else everyone would just quarantine and the virus would never spread. But that's just not the way it works, right?
Absolutely.
So that type of situation. So again, you can't always tell, or you couldn't always.
Definitely not.
It's their behavior, right?
Definitely not. You need to look for a pattern of behavior and over a prolonged period of time. Like there are red flags, but look, there's red flags in non-toxic relationships as well, so it's like you want to address them, see if it can be corrected. And it's a whole process that I kind of I would guide people through if they're worried about whether somebody is a narcissist or not. And it's not something that I can really cookie cut.
Can we talk about this? Because I see this a lot of times where a guy will get cheated on and then immediately say his girlfriend has borderline personality disorder. And it's like,
I see the same thing though with women. Any girl I talk to that has broken up with her boyfriend, they will tell me he's a narcissist, and I'm like, oh my God. Like there's just such a misunderstanding of what that is. More often than not, it's not the case.
Yeah.
And people don't want to hear that because they'll come to me because I specialize in this, and then they don't really want to hear what I have to say because sometimes it's like, well, he just wasn't that into you. He wasn't serious about you. It's not a bad guy. Not a bad guy. He just, wasn't that into you.
Yeah.
And sometimes guys will lead girls on, and that's a bad character trait, but it doesn't make them a narcissist.
I've actually seen situations where girls and guys will be like, we're in an open relationship. I'm not your girlfriend. I'm going to see other people when we're not together. And then the guy's like, okay, that's fine. And then he sees her with another dude and then later says like, you're a narcissist. Like, I can't believe you did this to me. You're hurting me.
Yeah.
He's like, I told you what was going to happen. And
well, that can be gaslighting,
Yes.
right? That's an example of gaslighting. That's a manipulation tactic. That's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. We call those double binds.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really interesting. That I see that a lot where people get broken up with, and then they start. And can we go back to what you said before? A single instant. But here's the thing, guys: if your girlfriend cheats on you, that doesn't make her a psychopath. That doesn't make her a narcissist.
Not at all.
It just means that there's some evolutionary pressure, or for some reason, either you weren't doing enough, or somebody else was doing more, or there was a need for gratification or validation that you just weren't meeting. I've seen women before who date a nice guy, and then a guy comes around with a Lamborghini and is willing to pay for all her cocaine, and boop, she's got a new boyfriend. That shit happens. And that doesn't make her a psychopath. And a lot of people don't like to deal with it. I know one guy, huge self-help speaker, and the guy would be on stage talking about all the other women he was having sex with to his audience, with his girlfriend in the audience. And I looked at his girlfriend sometimes and I'm like, I can't, she's not bisexual either. She wasn't cool with this behavior. And I would look at her and I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe he's saying this in front of her. Then shockingly, she cheats on him. I can't believe it. And then he says she has borderline personality disorder. And I'm like, maybe she does, but she didn't, that's not why she broke up with you. She cheated on you because you did not validate her in any way whatsoever.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah. And then I just thought that was unfair. So you see that happen pretty often.
I do. It's look, like, yeah, I see it all the time. And it's usually when somebody has been hurt in a relationship. That's usually when, we want to label people every time we're hurt. And it's like, we have to stop doing that. Yes, these things exist. Yes, they are problematic behaviors, but like the majority of people don't have it. And if like, you're like, everywhere I go, it's like my ex is a narcissist. My this is a narcissist. My this is a narcissist. And it's like, everybody has narcissistic traits, including myself.
Yeah, you have to. You have to, or else. Yeah.
But that doesn't make you a narcissist.
Right.
Right. And so you might have moments or periods of time where you're behaving badly. Right. Still doesn't make you a narcissist.
Yeah, if you had no narcissistic traits, you'd never cut in traffic, like ever. Even if there was a car five links behind you, you would never get over. If you didn't have any narcissistic traits, you'd let everyone skip you at Walmart in line.
Yeah.
You have to have some. At some point, it has to be like my hunger, my anger, my fatigue, my desire for love has to come before other people at some point, or else you're just an unhealthy person, right? There has to be some. It's the point to where like these are not only does other people's desires not matter, they don't even fucking exist.
Right.
Not only do they not exist, their own happiness comes from serving me. He's like, what? Why are you upset with me? Why are you upset with me, Jamie? You got to hang out with me all day today.
I know.
You should be so excited and grateful for the fact that you got to hang out with me today. Like,
true.
do you understand? Like, a narcissist believes that they care about you. Like, I care about you, and you want to know what I did for you today? I let you spend time with me.
Well, not all narcissists do that. Some do have that level of awareness, but some are much more sophisticated than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is madness, though. It is kind of crazy. Anyway, so let's keep going with this whole idea. That's the thing. So I think you and I are saying the same things, but we're using different words, because I heard you on the Dating Intelligence podcast, and we talked about because you even made a joke. It's like, I'm sure Michael Sartain has a statistic.
I did. Because you always throw out the stats.
I do.
I never know the stats.
So I'm a scientist. I don't have a PhD,
Yeah.
but I use a scientific method for everything. And
Yeah.
and so when it comes to intuition, I
Yes.
trust a felony background record over intuition.
Right.
For me, I think intuition, this is just my opinion, I think intuition comes from the cardiologist who's done 1,000 heart surgeries. He gets to use his intuition. The pilot who's landed an airplane 5,000 times, his intuition I count on. In general, I think when people count on their intuition, they end up
I wouldn't
dating.
characterize that as intuition.
Well, what is that?
Okay, I would say that's experience.
But I think experience is where intuition comes from.
I don't think so.
Then if it doesn't come from experience, then it comes from biology.
I don't think so. No.
Then where could it come
I think
from?
it's a spiritual thing.
Okay, so you think when you're saying intuition, we're going outside of the realms of science.
Yes,
Okay, got it.
yes,
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's just, I'm a very faith-based person,
Got
as
it,
you
okay.
know. And so that's when I talk about intuition, for me, and you don't have to be religious or spiritual to have an intuition, guys.
Right.
Okay, like you don't. It's just what it's what I personally believe.
Okay.
It is. And I think it is spiritual. I think it is God. I think it is connecting with your spirit that we all have. Everybody has a spirit, guys. So, that came from somewhere.
Okay.
And I'm not here to get on that topic, but that's what I think that it is. I think what you're explaining is also, yes, can you make decisions, good decisions based on that? Absolutely. But I would call that knowledge and experience, not intuition. Right. I think intuition is a knowing without any of that. It's like, I know that this is the truth and I don't need any proof that it is.
But I know so many people, the majority of people who have that feeling before they get in the relationship with the wrong person.
Well, you're correct. That is their intuition. And a lot of people choose badly. For a lot of other things, they ignore their intuition.
I think most people choose badly most
I would
of the
agree
time.
with you. I would agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you. I think most people pick the wrong person.
But so if we were, and I know you don't want to do this, but if we were to turn this into a scientific survey, we're going to find that intuition is going to lead you in the wrong direction most of the time.
Well, no, it won't. I'll tell you why. Because people aren't actually following their intuition.
Okay.
They're not following their intuition. Their intuition told you, don't do this.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So
you think it's the ego or the necessity for validation that trumps the intuition?
I don't necessarily think it's that. I think it's a lot of things. I wouldn't say that it's ego. I would say it's like, oh, my needs are being met. It's like, oh, like, this guy doesn't really, I don't really like A, B, C, and D, but he's really hot, and I don't want to be lonely.
Okay, so that's you're being more specific about. So what we're I think referring to here is like what you're saying before, getting back with my ex who cheated on me, or a situation where somebody's physically or verbally abusive, or a situation where you have a business partner that's stolen from you, or just sort of like forgot where the money went, or you're dealing with someone who has a complete lack of accountability, but they're really hot or really famous or whatever, and then that thing causes you to go against what you believe is your intuition.
More or less, yes.
Yeah.
More or less. I throw a heavier emphasis on a knowing without proof.
Okay.
And that's intuition. So I don't look, I use that as a way to like analyze behavior to explain that to the audience. But what I find that most people know without having any evidence, they know this person isn't good for them because it's a feeling that they get. It's a sense of peace that they don't have. It's a level of anxiety that they have with this person. It's the fact that something's off and I can't put my finger on it.
Okay.
I don't actually know what it is. That's your intuition. Okay. What I do with people is something very quick. And I do this with my girls all the time, my women that I work with. And I did this with my client just the other day, and she was having some issues with a guy that she was dating, whether or not he was the right guy. And I said, answer this question for me very quickly. Go, 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 go. And I will put the pressure on them. And very quickly she had an answer. And I said, that's your intuition.
Okay, got it. Interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I am also a spiritual person, but I think that whole thing comes from evolution. And we have disagreement on this because the thing is, the example I like to use is the deer that is born and is walking minutes later. That means there is a program for a biomechanical action that was already in there. No one had to teach it. No one had to.
Right. I think that you're 100% correct. And I would call that divine intelligence.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would call that Charles Darwin. But yes. Got it. All right. Beautiful. Got it. All right. But
We agree on most things, Michael.
However you get to your shooting pocket, as long as the ball comes out. Different ways to get to your shooting pocket. Got it. Okay, beautiful. All right, so I like this thing. Let's get to a couple things. I want
Sure.
to skip ahead.
Yeah.
I loved the thing that you talked about because I've seen this before where men want peace and women want safety. Okay, so
yeah.
this is fantastic because I agree with you completely in this.
Okay.
It was something that I started to notice. I remember there was this girl who's like, I want to go out with you. Let's hang out. And it's usually a situation where they're pursuing me. And then I'm like, then let's come over to my place. No sex involved. There's nothing to do with that. And let's watch a TV show together on the couch and we'll order in and we're going to do this peaceful thing and wear sweatpants. I don't give a fuck. And then the pushback I get is my dog did this. I need makeup, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you're like, I'm trying to provide a scenario for peace
Yeah.
and you're not letting me do that.
Yeah.
And then you're chronically single and you don't, or you're chronically complaining about men and you can't figure out why. And I think what you're talking about is this. If women, we're going to get to what women want also, but if you're a woman and you're wondering what is it that men really want, is what you're doing bringing him peace. If
Yes.
it's not, and you're super fucking hot, you're going to get away with it for a while. You just
You
are.
will, yeah.
You will. But for long term, if this is the one you want to wife you up.
Look, a guy is not going to have a life partner that causes him chaos.
Correct.
Now he might marry the hot chick.
Yeah.
He might marry the hot chick, but I guarantee you that is not going to be his life partner.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. The peace part, again, I'm going to say this. A lot of ladies are going to think I'm out of my mind when I say this. When you're on your period and you feel sick and he wants to come over and like bring you stuff.
Oh, he loves you.
Right. When he wants to come over and bring you stuff, if you say no to that, that dude's not wifing you up. You're getting wifed up by the dude you say yes to. When you can like, truly be vulnerable in front of this dude and let him do that. But if it's always, I don't have my makeup on and I feel fat and you want this dude to be your partner, get ready. Because you in his mind, he knows he can't trust you. Well, it's not even trust you. He doesn't feel that peace. There's just women are hot. Dudes will have sex with hot women. The ones that give them peace, the ones that don't give them peace, they'll have sex with hot women. The ones they're going to be with long term, I completely agree with what you said because I started looking through my life and I could pick some women in my life that it was just like, we can sit and some of them I'm not dating or anything. We can sit on the couch and she can do her work on her spreadsheets while I'm doing a one-on-one call with my clients and we can just sit next to each other. And I'm like, this works. This is peace. And then there's other people. It's like
guys have to know that they can do the day-to-day with a woman.
Yes.
And that's why you created that scenario for yourself is because you're orchestrating an event. It's really a way that you're probably subconsciously testing them to see like, well, how would life really look like with this person?
It's recent though. I will tell you throughout my 20s, it was who's the hottest one.
It could be. I'm just saying in that moment,
Yes.
that's probably what you're doing, right?
Yeah, just repeat, and you know, like I'm very open with my audience. I mean, I decided to do a podcast, so you guys are gonna learn all kinds of shit about me. I have a body type I'm insanely attracted to. I do and say stupid shit because I see things that are really attractive to me, and I start believing words that come out of women's mouth that I shouldn't be meant to. That I shouldn't believe because of their status or their physical attractiveness. And I got to stop doing that. And not to mention the fact I'm on TRT. So I have the testosterone of a 19-year-old. That these things cause me to like, I'm seeing shit that isn't there. Does that make sense? And I'm open to that. Now, in your situation, we talk about a man wanting peace and a woman wanting safety. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and this actually kind of adds to your perspective on evolutionary psychology, right? Women just genetically and evolutionary tend to be the sex that doesn't carry as much strength, and we also have more to lose. We invest more in relationships just physically and energetically, again, carrying children and things like that. So women tend to need safety as a love need, right? And the difference between safety and peace is safety is more geared towards protection, okay? And then men, it's more like an energetic exchange.
Yeah.
Like I can do nothing around this person and she doesn't cause any drama.
Yeah. So just going back to what you said before, let's have a couple of caveats. Evolutionary psychology is a discussion about what ought or what is, but not what ought. In reality situation is human rights are a thing we ought to strive for. Human equality is something we should strive for. 50,000 years ago, there were no human rights and there was no fucking equality. But that's the environment that Homo sapiens were brought up in, and that's the reason why we behave the same way we do. Why you see jingoism and misogyny; those things exist because they existed throughout evolution. And that's something we need to fight. That's the first thing. I'm not trying to excuse this behavior.
No, I know, but there's a reason it was successful. We're
Right.
not saying that it was good behavior, but there's a reason it succeeded.
If I'm an oncologist, I study cancer. That does not mean I endorse cancer. If I'm an evolutionary psychologist, I study the psychology of Homo sapien evolution. That doesn't mean I endorse in fact, several things I think are horrible. I think we're all fucking hairless murder apes. I've told you this before. So I'm not saying it's all good. I'm just saying that it's better to know the truth. So in this situation, when we talk about, so that's the first thing I'm gonna say. A woman today in 2022 does not need a fucking man. She doesn't need one. She can be successful and make millions of dollars without a man. That does not mean, however, in general, the middle 68.27%, the middle standard deviation, wouldn't in general want a man to lead and to be to provide some level of safety.
I think most women absolutely do.
And the science would back up what you're saying. The surveys would definitely back up what you're saying.
Yeah, most women too, and this is just talking about feminine energy that are operating in their masculine energy. It's because they don't feel safe in their current relationship.
The mom, the single mom who's the mom and the dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they present with that more masculine energy, and a woman's feminine energy will really come through, and that's more of her natural state when she feels safe in a relationship. You know, I can take a woman who presents very guarded, who's extremely defensive in her communication, who's like self-empowerment. Like I hear Amber Heard talk about this shit all the time. Okay.
Do you understand? Her victimhood is her empowerment.
I
she,
get it.
She writes a paper.
Let me get back to this because she says things like, I'm doing this on my own, and I'm a strong independent woman, and whatever else she's saying, and it's like, when you take people that say things like that, and really it's a lack of safety. And I could take that woman that presents that way and put her around a baby and she's going to be totally different. Or I could put her around a puppy and she's going to be totally different. That same woman that's super defensive and guarded is going to start talking in a baby voice. She's going to be like, oh my God, no. And you'll see that completely switch. That's your natural state. So as a lot of women, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. Like, I feel like a lot of women have disconnected from that, and I've seen men do the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to have Emily Sears on in June, and she's writing a book on feminism. I don't know when it's coming out, but she actually is the first person like I've had discussions with about modern feminism. And what I want to say here is that if you're a woman who believes that you don't need a man, you're right, you don't. And if you're a woman who believes that I want a man to lead in a traditional relationship, you're also right. That's what you want.
Yeah.
But we don't get to fucking yell at each other. The point I'm trying to make is if you believe in women's empowerment, you don't get to yell at the house mom. You don't get to yell at her for being the stay-at-home mom and vice versa. And as a man,
I agree.
As a man, if there's a stay-at-home dad while mom's out there making the bread, I'm not making fun of that dude. He is doing the best he can for his kids to get along and for his kids to adapt. So I don't have a problem with that. What I have an issue with is like we had the discussion before, and we're going to get into this. People make money on OnlyFans, or people make money being a stripper, or people make money from selling a weed dispensary, things that were illegal a couple of years ago. If you don't want to buy marijuana from them, don't buy marijuana from them. But don't go out there and then just you have this crusade to hate this person because they want a traditional male-female relationship.
I completely agree.
So that's the issue that I'm having, because a lot of people will get upset. This is what happened with me with the Brad Lee episode. I pointed out that there were women making money in non-traditional ways, and the editor, I'm not blaming anybody, but Brad Lee's editor just totally focused on the OnlyFans comments. And then people were so offended and said, this man is trying to steal my daughter and make them be on OnlyFans. I don't encourage anyone to be on OnlyFans. But if you're on OnlyFans, then let's just point out the fact that you can make a bunch of money and then buy a bunch of rental properties and still have a traditional life, even though your mom told you if you do this, then no one will ever want to marry you. That's not true. That's just not true. You're just telling people. It's almost like when mom used to say 100 years ago, if you keep masturbating, you'll go blind. It was this kind of like, why are you leaving the front door open when the air conditioner's on? You're gonna cool the entire neighborhood. These things that aren't true that your parents told you. I was just pointing out that fallacy. And just the attacks I got was just fucking incredible. I'm telling people you don't have a right to judge, or you shouldn't judge. And they want to hold on their right to judge more than anything in the entire world. Can you talk about that?
Well, the thing that's kind of coming to mind is, when you talk to people Not everybody's interested in the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people just have agendas.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how right you are or how kind you're trying to be. If they have an offense with you, that is what they will say. And they will push that narrative. And it's just a way to maintain power and control over their own perception or you.
Yeah.
So I always tell people you have to know who your audience is. You know.
Shout out to all the flat earthers out there. Welcome back.
Yeah, like you know, I could be very loving in my interaction with somebody, and somebody can completely ignore that and say she's the biggest bitch on the planet. She has no idea what she's talking about, right?
Because you set a boundary and then somebody interprets
well,
that way.
I don't even, it doesn't even need to be that. Like I could really just do a kind gesture for somebody, doesn't even need to be anything. And it's just about, look, not everybody's trying to understand you. Not everybody's interested in the truth. So like if I was to take your situation, some people maybe just don't like you, Michael, and they'll nitpick at what you're saying. And even though they have the ability to understand what you're saying and they can probably understand that perhaps this wasn't an offensive comment, if they don't like you, that's what they're going to push.
Yeah.
Right. And so in situations like that, don't defend yourself. Just don't. You kind of have to recognize who your audience is. I tell people all the time, know who your audience is and just stop fucking talking.
Tristan, all those comments I made about their moms, I got to take those down. Do you hear what she said? Yeah. They're living in your mom's basement. I'm sorry about all those people.
Oh my God, dude. Michael, you're not helping. You're just giving, you're not helping at all here.
I don't know. They were pretty funny. I thought it was pretty.
God.
They were pretty funny. Okay, so let's get to this whole thing. We talked about peace and relationships, intuition versus analyzing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought this was interesting. And I agree with you. Analyzation to the point that you were talking on the Dating Intelligence podcast about people overanalyzing a situation. And I see that a lot of my clients they present with neurosis and they're very open about it. And a lot of it comes from their upbringing with their family.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's mom and dad say, shut the fuck up, be quiet, sit in the corner. It's not time to talk. Now go to school. No talking there either. No expression. Be quiet the whole time. You need permission to express yourself in any way whatsoever. And now we grow up with these adults that have multiple master's degrees, but do not even give themselves permission to go talk to a woman at a bar. And that's the thing that I'm seeing here. So can you talk about this intuition versus overanalyzation?
Well, intuition is something that I really touched on earlier. I don't know like what context you want me to kind of explain it in, like just dating.
How about not overanalyzing things? How about intuition in the context of that?
Okay, well, analyzing things is just deductive reasoning. It's facts. Okay. Intuition is a knowing. It's that gut instinct, and we've all experienced it, but I think it gets dulled and I think it gets muddied when you start having to fact check, when you start look, here's a good example of knowing intuition versus analyzing. I could go up to a girl, okay, and I could say, nice shoes. Do I really like her shoes?
I don't know.
If I was to ask that to most women would say, no, you're talking shit. But
really?
Yes. Yeah. It's the way that I said it.
Oh, got it.
It's the way that I said it.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It's the way that I said it. Now, fact, if I was going to analyze that, there's nothing, I'm being nice and pleasant. I'm actually giving her a compliment. That's me analyzing it. Okay. That's what my mind is saying. Well, there's nothing off here. I'm being nice. But my gut is like, oh, bitch, just talk shit on my shoes. Okay. That's my intuition. I know she doesn't really like my shoes. Okay. Like even yesterday, people being pleasant, but they're really not.
Why don't you describe, hold on, Tristan, you want to say something?
No, couldn't you also say there's analysis to that because of the way they said it?
Yeah, like that could, look, yes, you can. I'm just giving you a distinction to make. Yes, there are parts in my response that you can analyze, right? You can analyze if I rolled my eyes. You can analyze my tone of voice. All of those things would be part of that deductive reasoning. At the same time, there's still a knowing that you don't like my shoes. And even if I took all the things that you could see, you still know.
Yeah.
Okay. You still know. I'm just giving you a few examples of what to kind of look for. Okay. And that's just an example of intuition. I know this person doesn't like me versus, but they're not behaving in a way that suggests that. And this is why abuse gets so complicated too, is you want to repeat that back to somebody. How am I going to repeat back? Well, she gave me a compliment on my shoes. She's such a bitch.
Right.
Like, how am I
you
going
look
to, how is
crazy.
that going to read to the audience? It looks crazy,
Yeah.
right? Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I love this stuff. Let's keep it coming.
Yeah. Cause that would be like,
Yeah.
if somebody came like, I just complimented her shoes. Why is she acting?
Exactly.
Why is she
Like, and then it
overreacting?
makes you look crazy and you're like, well, how do I explain to them that she was really, and again, that's your intuition. That's your knowing. That's that divine intelligence, that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
The weakness of an empath. You talked about the
Vulnerabilities.
The
I don't like
vulnerability?
using the word weakness.
Okay. The world would destroy an empath.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was saying that in the context of something. You're pulling that from the dating intelligence, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. If you don't know, look, I tell people all the time, empaths do need to be armed, okay? Because an empath has beautiful, beautiful qualities. An empath is a truth seeker. An empath is just a decent human being. They're very loving. They're very kind. But what an empath does is they see things through that lens. So if I'm loyal and trustworthy, I think everybody in my group is going to be loyal and trustworthy. It doesn't matter if they've hurt me before. I'm going to go into it blind every single time. It doesn't matter if I've been cheated on a million times. As soon as they apologize and tell me they're not going to do it again, I'm going to believe them because that's what an empath will do. And so if you don't learn those things about yourself, and you don't learn how those things can be exploited against you in unhealthy relationships, okay, where people can take advantage of you, where you will find that your energy is being tapped and drained. And so I do tell people you need to arm yourself. You don't ever need to change those things about yourself. I will never tell an empath to not be that way. They are the most beautiful people on the planet
Right.
to me. And they should be protected and they should be loved and they should be valued and they should be recognized for who they truly, really are. Because it's truly what's good in this world. But not everybody gets you. And that's
Yeah.
what I tell them. Not everybody deserves you. Okay. Just because you have that value, just because you have that mindset, doesn't mean you just throw it in front of everybody.
Right. Yeah. So the social contract that humans have with each other. Remember, we were living as nomads for the majority of our existence. The social contracts, the Magna Carta, the U.S. Constitution, whatever, those things exist because of empathy, because we're all fighting for a common goal and respect each other's human rights and right to property and right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That is, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is an expression of empathy that the founding fathers put in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because that structure of empathy, and most people, we're talking like 94 to 97% of people would be considered like normal empathetic people. The 95% of people that are non-empathetic are the ones that take advantage of the system. And those are the ones you have to worry about. And those are the ones you have to set boundaries for. And everyone's like, well, I can just avoid them. I'll just look for the signs and see them, except when you realize they're your uncle.
Yeah.
Except when you realize they're your boss.
Exactly.
Except when they
Exactly.
realize you're your commander and your squadron. Then you realize that.
Look, like whether you want to or not, if you don't set boundaries, other people are going to set them for you. Toxic or not toxic, okay? It's just kind of human nature, And so you do have to teach people how to treat you. If you don't know how to set boundaries, well, then the world will run your life and you won't be living your own life.
Beautiful. All right. So you and I got into a debate. We had Kendra Lust on when we were doing the 24-hour deal. Do you remember
I know
this?
what you're getting into now.
Yeah. All right. So we had listen, again, if you don't do OnlyFans, don't do OnlyFans. I've told people this before. It's not for everyone, but I have a lot of friends that are females. And what's happened recently is where like a lot of these girls were just doing bottle service or they were just on Instagram. There's so much money that they're making on OnlyFans that a lot of girls, and they're not even shooting nude. This is the part that's just mind blowing to me. Girls who are not even shooting nude and they're being criticized for being on OnlyFans and like, no, like they're not doing anything wrong. And yet they're still getting the same derision from everyone else. You had some things where you said it needs to meet these criteria or this is not something that you should be doing. Could you go a little bit more into that?
Well, I was just talking about choice and I just strictly want to keep it to that because let me say this. I have a lot of compassion for girls in that field. I have a huge background in sex trafficking and working with girls that have been sex trafficked. It is extremely important to me. And I developed this theory about choice from my work with them. Okay. So, and I use that with OnlyFans and everybody else because what I have found, and don't hold my feet to the fire, but what I have found is that most girls in the line of sex work aren't actually choosing that behavior. And and this is how I qualified choice. Okay. And look, if you don't meet these criteria, then you're choosing it. I'm not judging it. I'm just kind of giving people another way to look at it because what I found is that And again, this really started because when I was working with these girls, they all felt like it was their fault.
Right.
They had a lot of shame
Right.
and they had a lot of guilt around it. And I really was like, I prayed about it and I was like, God, I don't really know how to help these girls. And this is kind of what came out of that. Okay. So, true choice is what I call this. And I say, look, if there's fear, okay, and I'm talking about imminent fear, like life or death, okay? If there's imminent fear, it doesn't qualify as a choice to me, okay?
What about financial fear?
Well, I'm going to go over,
Yeah.
I'm going to go over my 5, and then we can talk about exceptions if you want, okay? Because I put that in a separate category.
Copy.
Okay. So, so if there's imminent fear, so look, this was what I would deal with all the times. Like a girl would have like a gun to their head and they're like, suck my dick. And she does. And then she feels bad about it. And I'm like,
you mentioned this before. You were actually dealing with prostitutes that had been arraigned. They've been arrested.
oh yeah. Like, so I was going into the jail. These girls had been arrested for sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I was doing. So I was on the front lines, guys. Like I'm not green when it comes to stuff like this. Okay. So again, fear, life or death, this is what they're dealing with on
Right.
a daily basis. Okay. Not a choice. Okay. Second thing is that if there's manipulation, I don't qualify that as a choice. Okay. So if somebody is withholding information from you, okay. So I'll just use a sex trafficking, for example. If they say they're your boyfriend and they turn out to be a pimp, you're not really making an informed decision. Okay. Small example. Okay. So if they're lying, if they're doing other things that, gaslighting you, okay, that influences a person's ability to choose. Okay. So it's not a real choice. Okay. The third one is dependency. Okay. And that's where the finances come in. So if somebody has your money, if somebody has your ID, if they are your place to live, if you rely on them for food, housing, basic needs and stuff like that, a level of dependency, even reputation. Okay. Then that influences your ability to make a good decision for yourself. Okay. Another one is intimidation. Okay. If you're being intimidated by a person, it influences your ability to choose because you're not able to make a true choice, in my opinion. And then the very last one is the lack of viable options. Okay. And I mean viable options. So you need to be choosing between two good things, not a bad thing and a bad thing.
Right.
Okay. So that means it means I want Burger King or McDonald's and I'm actually in the mood for a hamburger. That would be a viable option. Okay. So if you have these 5 things, then it doesn't qualify as a choice. I cannot say that somebody is actually choosing to participate in that line of work. I will say that they are surviving, and that is what I call it. Now, if it doesn't meet those things, then yes, I would say it's a choice. Okay.
I think with the example you give about going into the jails, I completely agree. And I think we're just surveying different groups.
Yeah.
I think probably what's happened with me is because so many of my friends are, I think they qualify in all 5 categories. Like I think Narford was a senior airman in the U.S. Air Force, so she had another viable option. She could have stayed in the U.S. military. She had several other options. She controls her own money. She's an entrepreneur.
Then it doesn't meet that criteria, so it's a choice.
No,
you know
I
what
understand.
mean? Yeah.
And I think the reason why I'm biased, I'm explaining to you why I think I'm biased is because so many of the women that I have on the show are so magnificently successful and did it on their own while at the same time running several other businesses and are in complete control of their own bank account. And they keep 80% of the profits and the other 20% goes to OnlyFans. Yeah. I think it's different. But when you're talking about in the jails, women that are being trafficked, that's a completely different
It's not different. It's not different.
I'm talking
whether they're
percentages as far as choice is concerned. I think it's different.
Probably yes. Yeah. I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, can there be women in OnlyFans and in a line of sex work where they are choosing that behavior? Yes, I think so.
But there's also women who are on OnlyFans that are not sex workers, and that's a big difference.
Exactly. Yes, and I don't mean to just narrow that group in that way. I don't actually know too much about OnlyFans, guys, so I am limited in that way. So give me some grace there.
It's just pay-per-view.
Yeah. Okay.
But it doesn't have to be pay-per-view porn. It's just pay-per-view whatever. There's OnlyFans cooking shows.
And I've heard of things like that as well. So but I tried not to take. I'm saying that for me that theory developed from that field, and I can apply that with anything, right? If it doesn't meet those 5 things, I would say that I would put it in a choice category. But if it does, then it's not your choice; it's survival.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, survival, man. That is a big deal, right?
Well, I'd say most people are in a survival state.
Yeah.
You know, look at your nervous system alone.
Yeah.
That'll tell you.
I you know, one of the things that I found, you know, I've been around the world, you know, with the U.S. military and then with other, just going on vacation into different places, and I see places where there's not a great deal of economic viability, and then I see what you're talking about. Like, for instance, when I hear about guys going to Medellin or Panama City or certain places in Berlin or certain places in Romania, and there's no like college girls in the fraternity who like became a receptionist and is going for a master's degree. There's like women from wealthy families, or there's women who are like a couple paychecks away from prostitution, and that's it. Like, when in Panama City, there's just like no girls that are just out there having a good time to go party. Like, it is.
Well, their families will even sell them a lot of times.
Rampant
you know?
prostitution, and in places like that, there is no choice. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, and that happens here as well.
Yeah.
And it's actually extremely prominent here. Sex trafficking. I
Yes.
don't even use the term prostitution because I think it implies choice. But
Yeah.
it's very much out here.
Yeah.
And I see it everywhere. It was so crazy because I was doing a lot of sex trafficking work back home. I'm from Cali.
Yeah.
And I was doing work out there doing the same thing. And when I was coming in here doing the jail, I saw one of my girls from there. And because they have like these rings, you know,
Yeah.
that they filter through. And I knew that Fresno to Vegas was one of them. And I saw her. It's sad.
That is sad, man. I can't even imagine. That is pretty sad. So let's talk about this also. When it talks, the thing is, you mentioned before, and I got to be aware of this. I know what my vulnerabilities are, and maybe you have. So okay, all right. We're just. I wasn't going to do this, but I think I'm going to do it.
Oh no.
We're going to do a segment every week called "What's Wrong with Michael Sartain." Okay, and I have a therapist here, so you're welcome to call out anything that you see, because I do tell you my stuff. It's I'm waving. Ready? HIPAA laws. Fuck them. You can say whatever you want. Right. So in the situation with me, I know for me, there's a type, right? And my female friends do not care what they look like. Beautiful, not beautiful, doesn't make any difference to me. All women are beautiful to me. My guy friends, I don't care. The women that that I'm intimate with, I am ashamed sometimes of how shallow I become. And this city has made me even more shallow. It's almost to the point where the things my pastor told me shouldn't be looking at because that was an unrealistic view of what women look like. I now live in a place where it's not unrealistic. It's every day. That is exactly what women look like. And I think it's jaded me. So whenever I go to Des Moines or go back to Wichita or go to Dallas, I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. You understand what I'm saying? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because in this situation, I think Las Vegas kind of can make people.
Yeah. Well, tell me what context you kind of want me to talk about this in. Like you personally, like, or like is this a problem, or like I need to kind of have some more information.
I was trying to get to get Jamie to give me a therapy session. That's kind of what it was.
Well, here's what I could do. Is that causing a problem for you in your life?
You know about my recent thing a year ago with Voldemort. That was the type of situation. So from this point forward, for legal reasons, the most recent ex is Voldemort. The one before that is Sauron. That's how they shall be referred to on the show. But this situation with that, right? That was fucking beyond anything I could have ever imagined. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so in that situation, I was completely blind because of my libido.
Well, I don't want to even revisit that. What I need to know is you being attracted to a type causing a problem in your life right now?
You could say it actually helps me sometimes.
Okay, so I didn't ask you that.
Yeah,
though.
I don't know. That's a tough question.
Then there's nothing to address.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's really important for you to know.
Yeah.
Okay, like if you're not in distress, Michael, there's nothing to work on.
Got it.
Okay. Now, like if you were to come to me and you're like, look, this is impairing my ability to connect with others. This is causing a problem in my sex life. I have unrealistic expectations now because of women. No. If you're coming at me with stuff like this, I can piggyback off that.
Yeah.
But you're not. This has actually been quite successful for you. You're not currently in distress. Your needs are being met and you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. And I'm getting hired at different places.
So I would say there's nothing to address.
Yeah.
Based on what your needs are. See, people come to me when there's a problem.
Yeah.
If there's no problem, I don't need to fix anything.
And then my advice to you is usually like super toxic. thirst trap type
Your
shit.
advice to me is always like nothing I would come up with myself.
It's so funny. So this is why I was asking the question, to be honest with you. This is how our conversations go. We'll talk about a thing, a theory, whatever. Maybe it's a personal situation. And her advice is always super healthy, do the work, very empowered, extremely like transcendental, what's the word I'm looking for? The people who've gone through meditation. I can't remember what the word. Enlightened. Very enlightened.
Thank you.
Her enlightened. Then she'll ask me for advice. Like, Mike, I need advice with this. And my thing is just thirst trap, fucking soup. Like get the thirst out there. No,
Ethics out the window.
No, this booty pic versus this. She'll send me 3 of them. Like, no, this one, the third one. I put a little heart next to it. That's the one you want to post. Motherfucker will be calling you in 27 seconds. So it's really funny when we have we should record our conversions.
Oh my God. It's like night and day.
Bleep out all the names. I'm like, listen.
I think it's actually kind of good in a way because there's a balance to it, right?
Like, I know what the enlightened answer is. I just like, I'm not like, you didn't come to me for the enlightened answer, did you? No, you didn't. You came from me for the thirst trap, and I'll tell you how to do it. For sure, man. I mean, I totally understand. I just think our conversations are really funny. Oh, I remember. This is exactly what I want to talk to you about. So we have somebody coming on. She's asked you to be on her show, and it's Jen Rufo. The Jen Rufo show.
Yes, yeah.
Jen Rufo is awesome, and I highly recommend you guys check her show because Jen Rufo is trying really fucking hard to make things that are. She's trying to shift the Overton window on the entire planet, right? The Overton window. So for those of you, it's the window for what is acceptable. In 1982, if you're a political candidate espousing gay marriage, people will you'd get laughed off stage. In 2022, if you were against gay marriage, you'd get laughed off stage. So the Overton window on gay marriage has shifted 180 degrees during that time period. Some people would argue against that, but for the most part, that's the case, right? Obviously, I thought the Overton window on abortion had shifted, but I've found out in the last couple of weeks that is not true. So here's the situation with the Overton window. She personally, and this is what she says, okay? So Jen, don't get mad at me, okay? She believes that the reason why women do not want as many sexual partners as men is completely due to culture. She does not believe it's genetic. She thinks that because Jen is very, very polyamorous and she's very open about it. Jen has said on several occasions that she thinks that women deep down really want multiple sexual partners, male sexual partners, multiple at the same time. And they would all be doing this if they were not shamed when they were little girls or if they believed that society was trying to shame them. And I pointed out to her, it's like, I can't find any science that backs up what you're saying, number one. And number two, we had Kendra Lust on here, right? Kendra Lust. If there's any shame that was going to come from having multiple sexual partners, she was a huge porn star for over a decade, and she's been with the same guy for 10 years and never slept with anyone else except for her boyfriend. So when she had the choice and had experienced this shame, she still chose monogamy. Do you agree with me? Like,
I do. I really do. Even when I look at infidelity with women,
Yeah.
They're not fucking multiple dudes when they're being unfaithful. They're usually sleeping with one.
Yeah.
You know, so I would disagree with that.
Okay, here's the other thing, Jen. Again, Jen, we want to come on the show. I cannot wait to have this debate with you, okay?
Don't hate me, Jen.
The second hypothesis that Jen has is that I've told her, and her and I are just friends, and I've told her, like, Jen, I don't want to watch you have sex with some other dude, and we're just friends. I don't think, if we were dating, I definitely would not want to watch you have sex with other dudes or multiple other dudes. And she's saying, you haven't done the work, Michael, you're not evolved. In that most men would be fine with this, except they are shamed into believing that this is somehow cuckoldry or homosexuality or something to that effect. And my response is, well, there's nothing wrong with being homosexual in the first place. I'm not judging you for being homosexual, but in the second place, I disagree. I think most men do not want to see most heterosexual men do not want to see their female partner with multiple other men.
I would agree.
Tristan, do you agree with that? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just said, but she truly and honestly does believe that it is society that is repressing this urge. There's a book, by the way, Jen, if you haven't read it, you should. It's called Sex at Dawn. The book actually criticizes a lot of Dr. David Buss's theories. The book I personally believe is hokum, and there's no science behind it. But there is a book that kind of states this. But I thought it was interesting, and I would like for the three of us to have this discussion because
I'm down.
I really feel
Yeah.
this. Again, even though I don't agree with you with what Jen's saying, I love her show. I think all of you guys should watch her show, and it's incredibly entertaining. She had Swedish Bella on, who I just had on my show, and I don't know if you heard the Swedish Bella thing where she said men don't love with their penis. Did you see that?
I didn't know.
It was really, really controversial. So Swedish Bella has been in the news because she has a traditional male, female role in her marriage with her husband, and she lets her husband sleep with other women.
Oh, I did see that.
Yes.
I did see that. Yes.
And it got tons of views and a lot of people talking about it. The way she was stating it was that a man is going to have sex with other women and it doesn't have any effect on his feeling towards her. That was her belief. I will tell you, as a man, I know that to be the truth. It is the case. And the science would also, again, there's a book, you guys are welcome to check it out. It's called When Men Behave Badly by Dr. David Buss. And they show when men and women cheat. When men cheat in a marriage, the men who cheat and men who don't cheat show the exact same level of satisfaction in the marriage. When women cheat, they show 80% less satisfaction in the marriage. When men cheat, it is not to end the relationship. When women cheat, it tends to be because they want to end the relationship. Do you agree with that estimation?
I do, actually. I really do. It reflects what I've seen in therapy. Absolutely. When guys are being unfaithful, they are in that, they're still in their marriage. When women start to cheat, oh my God, it's the end of that marriage. It really is. That's just from what I have personally worked with and seen. That's a pattern that I see.
And that's where Jen and I started this discussion. Was she believed that, no, it's the same for both of us. And I'm like, Jen, I don't believe it. Because it is the same for Jen. I 100% believe that she feels that way about herself.
Right, but that would be her own projection,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it makes, like, again, going back, like a narcissist is going to see things through their lens.
Yeah.
For Jen, this very well could be, well, this is the truth for her. This is how she sees, this is what makes sense. But what's really hard is that when we see things for a certain way, we will project that onto other people, thinking that they will see things that way as well.
The example that I gave her was like, I'm left-handed, and 11% of the human population is left-handed, somewhere around there. Some people say it's less than that. And my whole thing was, because some people are forced to be right-handed when they're kids, and my whole thing was like, well, the world is actually left-handed, and society's just repressed us all, and in reality, we're all just left. And I was like, no, that's not true. The world is not left-handed. Most people are right-handed, and it just happens to be that's the way it is. It's just not some huge conspiracy. But I just thought it was interesting. I really do want to have a discussion with her about it, because we talk about it every day and get into these fucking knockdown, drag-out arguments. But Jen is awesome, so I hopefully we can have her on there at some point. You're a life coach. Can you talk about that? So you're a therapist and a life coach. How are these things different? Because a lot of times when I say people, I'm going to get you on, they ask me like psychologist questions, and I'm like, she's not a research scientist. She's a therapist. There's a difference. So can you go over the difference there?
Yeah, I mean, look, really the real reason I even have that is because within the bounds of my therapeutic license, I'm bound by the state that I'm licensed in. So I am licensed in a few states, so I can practice as a therapist in those states. A life coaching, you may not get all of the therapeutic tools and interventions, but you'll get the knowledge and the general like day-to-day practice of how to kind of navigate life issues and stressors. And I can reach way more people through that certification, and I'm not bound by the limits of my license.
Got it. Got it. So life coach will let you go, has some flexibility?
Yeah, it does. Legally, I don't want to say like everything that it is on camera or anything like that, because I don't actually have the legal paperwork in front of me, and I would need to defer to that specifically. Because there is a difference between the two as far as what the state and those mandates.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. There's a state mandate for a life coach? I did not know this.
No, for my license.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
And then versus what life coaching is, which is you don't really need the same degree of specialization. The great thing about doing life coaching with me is that I have it.
Right.
Whereas a lot of other life coaches don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. If you come to MOA, which is my coaching product, you just get yelled at. So the qualification I have is being yelled at in the U.S. military for 7 years. All right. Also, this is a really interesting thing, because you were just finishing this up when we did that 24-hour stream, was about 75 hard.
Yeah.
And I remember I believe this is the case. You started it when you did dating intelligence.
I did. That was like my first week or something.
And you finished it on the 24-hour live stream, which was 75 days later. Can you talk about that journey?
Yeah. And I went into phase 1 after that too. I'm about to start phase.
I don't know what phase. I don't know.
Two.
I don't know anything about this. What is it?
So the challenge that I did is called 75 hard, and that's like the Andy Frisella, I forget his name.
Frisella?
Frisella. Yeah.
Okay.
It's his challenge, and so He says that it's not a fitness challenge, but to me it was. You have to do 2 45-minute workouts a day, drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages of a nonfiction novel. One of those workouts
can it be
need to be
audiobook?
inside. No, you can't. It cannot be an audiobook. He's very specific about that. You have to take a progress pic every day. You have to follow a diet, no drugs or alcohol, obviously. And that's the challenge. You need to do that for 75 days.
That is my entire life except for the audiobook. That literally, there's not a day that goes by that I don't get through 10 pages. I'm in the gym twice a day. Like everything. It's just really interesting.
That's great. Most people don't live that way though. And like I considered myself to be a pretty fit person as well. But I wasn't drinking a gallon of water a day. I was only doing 1 workout a day. I wasn't doing 2. I'm a pretty avid reader. So for the most part, it wasn't a huge disruption in my life, but it did really stretch me out of my comfort zone because I work, and getting that second workout in was challenging.
For sure.
And it was, I had to kind of get a system down. Once I had my system down, I was like, oh, it's a cakewalk. By day 40, I was like, I could do this,
Yeah.
So that was the first 75 days. Then after that, I went straight into phase 1, which is 75 hard. And then you add several things on top of that. You have to do 8 power tasks. You create those power tasks. You have to do like 10 minutes of visualization, 5 minutes of a cold shower.
5 minutes?
5 minutes of a cold shower, yeah.
You time 5 minutes. So I can do a cold shower. 5 minutes?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I kind of half-assed that one because that was really uncomfortable for me. And I hate the cold. But like there would be times I would just put my arm in.
So the theory behind the cold shower thing is, so like you have to understand, you have the thing called hypothalamus in your body. And so it's a thermodynamic effect. You're 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a theory. Actually, it was the 4-hour body. Tim Ferriss talks about this. I believe in that book. In the book, he talks about swimmers being able to burn off fat like very, very quickly because they have the cardio effect of swimming combined with the thermodynamic effect of the water being colder than your body temperature. Mm-hmm. So people will get in these cold showers. Well, it's a function of thermodynamics. If I'm robbing you of heat through the cold water, which is what water does, water robs you of heat faster than air does. Mm-hmm. When that happens, your hypothalamus has to make up the difference. And the way it does so is by increasing your heart rate. So you shiver, so it causes your muscles to contract through shivering, your heart rate to go up. So you're literally burning calories to maintain 98.7 because of the cold water. It's like free calories that you burn.
Well, not only that, but there's also additional evidence that I found, like, because I was like, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Part of it is just mentally, it's difficult, right? And it's to overcome the mental component of that. But the other part is, like cryotherapy or things like that. It's good for your muscles. It's also increases, it's epigenetics. It's good for like your telomeres. It increases your youth gene and things like that. So
inflammation also.
Inflammation, yeah. So it has some benefits. So I did phase 1, and now I'm about to go into phase 2.
Have you done cryo?
I do not want to do cryo. No.
Let's do it. Do you want to do it today? Let's go.
God, no. Are you serious? Do you want to do it today?
I do it all the time. Yeah, it's
maybe.
Great. All right. So just so we're clear about cryo, the surface of the moon on the dark side is negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside of the cryo chamber, I believe they get to like negative 230. And you have to stay in there for they have to cover your hands and they have to cover your feet.
I don't think I want to do this.
They have to cover your hands, cover your feet. You have to cover your face because there's like liquids here, and you have to cover your nose. You do this and then you have to cover your ears. The rest of your body, you're like almost naked going, it's like I think I've done negative 230 for like 3 minutes or something like that. And I'm listening to dubstep and I'm just like going as crazy as I can. You get out of that thing and you feel like a new person because your arteries have constricted so much, dude. You are so fucking alive after that. I love it. I don't know if I could probably do it every day, but it's hard. Like, I don't know if I could do 3 minutes like that every day because it's like you're literally, I imagine this is what deep space feels like, how fucking cold it is in there. It's crazy.
No, I get cold so easily too. So it's just, no thanks.
Yeah, the cold shower one is that's rough, man. Mm-hmm. That is really rough.
It was not fun.
All right. I love this one. You fire your clients. I'm curious. You have a client, and you say you never work harder than your client.
Yeah.
And your client you can't find happiness. The client has to find happiness. Mm-hmm. Jamie Villamore, who I've had on the show before, good friend of mine. She says to her daughters, Jamie has several daughters, I'm not going to find your happiness for you. Your happiness is your responsibility. Can you talk about a scenario where you would have to fire a client?
Well, I've fired clients that have hit on me.
Okay.
So that's one of them. That's definitely one of them when they try to like take you out and you're like, all right. Or like sometimes I'll have people seek me out and they're not really trying to get help. And that tends to be the most common reason why I'm firing people. I don't want to say, because this is how do I say this without giving that away? I had somebody reach out to me. Okay. Saw me on Instagram and wanted some help. Right. It was pretty easy. Again, this is my intuition. Okay. I could sense this person liked me. Okay. At the same time, I'm going to do my due diligence and see what they're coming in with. And this person had a problem that they presented, but I could tell it was pretty empty. There really wasn't anything to do. And so what I do when I say I never work harder than my client, I really don't. I will put it on them, but I will only give you what you're giving me. Okay. And I have a lot of information. I could talk for hours, but sometimes, like, if you're not coming to the table with anything, you won't hear me say anything either. You know, so this person just really did it. Just nothing was going anywhere. Wasn't going anywhere. There was no substance to what he was saying. It was just like, oh, I just want to talk about this. And I was like, all right, well, you've talked about that and I've given you some feedback. What else? Somebody that has a real life stress or a real problem isn't going to just stop there, right? This was a person that had an agenda. This was a person that was buying my time. So I fired him.
And Chase, there's the TikTok clip. I fired a client because he was there to hit on me. Done. That is going viral. That's the one. Beautiful. Awesome, man. So we've talked about a bunch of different stuff. What do you have coming up?
So I am accepting new clients and, I don't take insurance. I should probably say that. But I've definitely opened up my schedule because there's been a higher demand. So I'm, if individual therapy and if you're actually serious about getting work done, and I don't just do narcissism, I do everything. Then please reach out. You can, use my DM my Instagram if you need to. I also have an email. So, yeah.
I have to remind people I have an email sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean? Why did you just write me on Instagram? I didn't see what you wrote.
I feel like everybody communicates on Instagram now. It's just going down in the DMs.
Email? What's the email? Do you have anything? What's wrong with Michael Sartain? Is there anything wrong?
Well, Michael, is there a problem in your life?
There's a few. I'm not going to talk about them on here.
Okay. Well, then you look like, what's wrong with Michael Sartain? I don't know. If you're not currently in distress, then nothing's wrong, right?
Okay. Well, you know what makes me happy is listening to you talk about crazy shit.
I could do that for hours.
When you call me and tell me crazy shit, I'm so fucking excited. I am so excited. I'm going to sit here and listen to all this kind of stuff. We're not going to get into the specifics of it.
Got the tea.
It is fantastic. Ready for your toxic advice today? You guys ready? You guys want some time? You want to hit her up for some therapy? Good. You guys want toxic advice? Go ahead and hit Michael Sartain on Instagram. Hey guys, thank you so much for coming here and checking us out. We're really glad we're going to have Jamie come out. She came out to do the bikini competition. If you guys want to check that out, I'm posting a bunch about it on social media. If you guys want to come out to Wet Republic any Friday and check it out, it's the biggest bikini competition in the world. So we're really happy to have her come out and judge it. If you guys are also interested in communication, fixing things when it has to do with entrepreneurship, leadership. If you guys want to learn more about critical thinking, if you want to learn more about public speaking, high status social networking, if you guys want to learn more about social media or evolutionary psychology or any of the things that we talk about, please check out the link in the description for the Men of Action mentoring group. I want to say, I cannot believe how much growth has come from this podcast for my coaching program and the society, the group of people that have come together because of the program. I'm really, really proud, and I love the fact that all of you guys have joined. And ladies, if you guys want to be a part of it too, I know it says Men of Action, but we want you guys to be a part of it too. We love having discussions with there's a lot of great information. I love having Jamie come on my Monday calls. Jamie does come on some of the MOA calls, and a lot of the guys will ask her questions because Jamie not only is highly intelligent and Jamie has a functioning practice, she's also a really attractive woman that a lot of the dudes in the program would be interested in. So that's one of the things we talk about is having female friends who are like the person that you probably want to associate with or probably want to date, right? So if you guys are interested in that, please click out the link, check out the link below. Please go to Jamie's IG and check it out. Do not be distracted. This woman is going to give you fantastic, fantastic advice as far as therapy is concerned. I'm really excited. I have some friends that have recently gone to her, so I'm excited to learn more about what's going on there. And guys, we have an incredible summer coming up. I got Andrew Tate coming on That is going to be extremely controversial. I got Ty Lopez coming on here in a couple weeks. I got Steve Demopoulos coming on, who just bought he bought Post Malone's Bugatti. I don't know if you saw that. He bought it for $3.4 million. Then Post Malone said, "Nope, you can't have the Bugatti." Then he went to federal court, sued Post Malone. It made the national news. Post Malone was like, "Okay, you can have the car," and then they didn't even send all of the car. And so now they're suing him again.
Oh my God,
this is crazy. So we're gonna have him on pretty soon. And I also want Jamie to come back on when I have Dr. Buss on again.
I would love that.
That would be fantastic to have him on. And I also want Jamie to come on when we have the Flat Earthers on.
I don't know what I would do there.
Sound good? Get ready, guys. It's an exciting summer coming up, and we will see you all next week. That's a wrap.